Hello everyone. This is chapter 24 from my contemporary romance novel Under A Namibian Sky. In this chapter we discover what happens with Luca and Naomi when they get stuck in a storm in the desert, and the surprising fate of Stefan, the guy who'd attacked her. Voices pulled Naomi from the deep unconsciousness of sleep. For a moment she didn't know where she was. An awareness of being hot and stuffy in a tiny space became her first impressions. As her eyes got used to her surroundings, she realized she'd fallen asleep on Luca's chest in the truck's cabin. It wasn't how she'd imagined their first night together to be, but it was thrilling. She sat up slowly so as not to wake up Luca, whose rhythmic breathing showed he was still asleep. Turning her head left and right, she tried to iron out the stiffness from sleeping in such an awkward position. Total silence greeted her. There were no signs of the storm, no howling wind, no shaking of the truck. But the sand had covered all the windows. She could see nothing through them. Yet she was sure she hadn't imagined the voices nearby. She stretched her ears, holding her breath. At first, she could only hear babble, but the sounds became more distinct as the people came closer. Naomi could make out some words in the Herero language. Her first thoughts were of poachers. The increase in her breathing and her heart beating faster were the only signs of her anxiety. She locked her door and sat still. Luca was still asleep against his door, unaware of the danger they might be facing. She'd have to wake him up to lock his door, but it would be pointless. They'd be in real trouble if poachers found them. Those guys usually carried guns, and locked doors wouldn't stop them when they could shoot through glass and metal. A scraping sound next to her alerted her that someone was brushing the sand from the window there. As she continued to stare at the spot where the pink light of the breaking day was streaming in, Otayan's smiling face peered at her through the streaks of sand still clinging to the glass. Relief brought tears to her eyes. Beyond Otayan stood several members of the anti-poacher unit. Soon he'd scraped most of the sand from her window and door. She unlocked the door and slowly opened it. Luca was still sleeping. She held a finger to her mouth and pleaded with her eyes for the guards not to make a noise so Luca could continue to sleep a little longer. It had been a scary night in the storm. A few meters behind her truck, Otayan had stopped the rescue truck, ready to take them home. Naomi got out and gently pushed the door close again. She led the guards a short distance away from the truck, where they'd formed a circle around her as she whispered to them. "How will we get my truck with a buggy on the top back to the lodge?" Otayan whispered back. "Gerard will bring the mechanic. He will bring the breakdown lorry later, Nonna. The storm was still here 2 hours ago. So we went to the waterhole to pick up Pitt and Hans. But Mrs. Elsa was worried about you. She wanted us to find you as soon as the storm finished." It was unusual behavior for Auntie Elsa. Naomi's pulse quickened. "I see. Has anything happened to Auntie Elsa?" "No, Nonna. She just wanted us to find you so you can go home." Naomi prayed, that was all it was, that Auntie Elsa was just concerned for her and Luca's safety. She looked back at the truck. It was easily recognizable as a truck, but it was covered in sand, as was the buggy on the back. Both vehicles would need a thorough wash. Thank God the buggy was only a prototype. Suddenly the passenger door opened and Luca's dark hair appeared above the hood of the cabin. He saw her talking to the guards, closed the door and walked around the front of the truck to join them. Otayan immediately went to Luca, his hand outstretched in greeting. After their handshake, he and Luca joined the group, Luca put an arm around Naomi, giving her a squeeze and a kiss on her head. With his other hand, he greeted each guard in turn. Luca yawned, stretched, and smiled sleepily at Naomi. "I guess we'd better get going. I'm sure Auntie Elsa would be worried about you." Otayan led his men back to the rescue truck, while Luca and Naomi went to collect her things from their vehicle. Meanwhile, Otayan had driven forward and stopped ahead of their vehicle to wait for them. As Luca and Naomi walked toward their rescuers, they saw something on the back, lying on a makeshift stretcher covered by canvas. The rest of the guards were already sitting on the raised sides of the truck, facing inward, their fingers gripping the metal beside them, ready for the journey back to the lodge. They appeared unperturbed by whatever was under the canvas at their feet. As Otayan drove off, he saw Naomi and Luca glancing through the back window at the canvas. "We found him by the waterhole, Nonna." "What do you mean, Ota?" "The American man, the one who stayed at the lodge. When the boss man left, he got drunk and picked you up. We shot on the ground so he would put you down. Then the police came to take him away. That man." Naomi gasped. "Stefan!" Luca and Naomi did a double take at each other, shock obvious on their faces. Naomi stared at the canvas. Stefan was obviously dead. Naomi couldn't tear her eyes away from the canvas, even though everything in her screamed to do so. She should feel something. Relief, perhaps. Vindication. But all she felt was numb. Only 2 questions came to mind. How did it happen? And how did Otayan find him? Otayan was watching her. His response felt like he'd been reading her mind. "The elephants trampled him, Nonna, so we put him under the canvas." Almost as an afterthought he added, "I've already told Kerry, on the walkie-talkie. She called the police." Everyone was quiet for a long time. Luca couldn't help feeling disappointed. He wasn't a vengeful man, but he would have liked the satisfaction he imagined he'd derive from bringing down Stefan for what he did to Naomi, and perhaps countless other women. But Luca was grateful the man would never again bother any other woman, including Naomi. He shuddered at the thought. He'd protect her with his life. That scum like Stefan had dared to lay his hands on Naomi. It still made Luca's blood boil. Stefan got his comeuppance, and what a way for it to happen. Luca should be happy. The man was dead. But should one ever be happy about the death of another? Luca sighed. "It's the right punishment for what he did, don't you think? To you and to that elephant he shot." What could she say? Luca was right. But the man was dead. Even in death, Naomi didn't want to be near him. That day, what Stefan had done. It felt as though it happened to someone else. Naomi was aware her detached feelings had everything to do with the trauma of the assault on her. It was as though her brain was protecting her by not allowing her to remember all the horrid details with any clarity. She was grateful for it. But it didn't diminish her distaste for having the man's body so nearby. They drove in silence, Luca and Naomi both aware of Stefan's body lying under the canvas on the back of the truck. As Otayan steered through the gate, Naomi noticed the Flying Doctor's Cessna parked on the landing strip beside the house. Thoughts that something had happened to Auntie Elsa clawed their way back into her mind. Naomi couldn't wait to get out of the truck. As quickly as she could, she excused herself and raced into the kitchen. Auntie Elsa and Kerry sat at the big old wooden table. On either side of them sat the doctor, Johan, and his cousin, Nick, in his police uniform. Naomi came to an abrupt halt. "Oh, Are you okay, Auntie Elsa? I saw the doctor's Cessna." Auntie Elsa's smile was warm and reassuring. She understood Naomi's behaviour. "I'm as well as you can see me, darling. The doctor and Nick are here for Stefan's body. Naomi nearly cried from relief. Oh, of course. Auntie Jan said he'd called Kerry. She went to press her cheek against Auntie Elsa's while hugging her bony shoulders. Auntie Elsa put her hand over Naomi's on her shoulder. I'm so glad you're back. I was worried. The storm was a biggie this time, wasn't it? She paused as though to assimilate the information her fingers were giving her as her hand lingered on Naomi's. Is that a ring I feel on your finger, darling? Auntie Elsa pulled Naomi's hand forward so she could admire the ring. It's beautiful, Naomi. Congratulations! Where is Luca? The moment Auntie Elsa called attention to the ring, Kerry jumped up, and joined by several members of staff, they fawned over the ring, turning Naomi's hand this way and that. Moments later, the light coming through the open kitchen door darkened as Luca's tall frame appeared there. A huge grin lit up his face when he saw Naomi's admirers delighting in her ring. Auntie Elsa beckoned him closer. Congratulations, Luca. Forgive me for not getting up. The acoustics in the kitchen amplified Luca's deep voice as he spoke and took long strides toward Auntie Elsa. Please, don't! After he'd given her soft kisses on both cheeks, she introduced him to Nick. Luca shook his hand, as well as those of the doctor and Johan, whose booming voice was too loud for the kitchen. Good to see you back here, Luca. Congratulations, man. Naomi is a cracking girl, but she's picky. You're a fortunate man. Chef brought delicious freshly baked bread, jam and rich coffee. Naomi took her place beside Auntie Elsa and Luca pushed in her chair before taking his seat next to her. Everyone except Auntie Elsa helped themselves to Chef's offerings. Auntie Elsa drank only coffee. Her appetite had diminished even more, but she appeared to enjoy the gathering that had turned into an early breakfast celebration of Luca's and Naomi's engagement. Nick popped out to check on Stefan's body and to take statements from Otayan and the guards before they left for the day on their duties. Everyone's eyes were expectant on him when he returned and took his seat beside the doctor again. Yes, it's Stefan's body. The poachers we picked up yesterday were the men who'd helped Stefan track and kill several elephants in the desert. They were the same men caught here one night when they came looking for the Ellie after they'd killed her mother. When we arrested the men yesterday, Stefan was obviously left alone in the desert. From the state of the body, I'd say it's clear he got caught in the storm. Most likely disorientated, he got in the way of the stampeding animals. I agree with Otayan. It looks like elephants trampled him. Auntie Elsa sighed. I feel responsible because I gave those men food and sent them on their way that night, instead of having them arrested. What is even more disturbing is Stefan was so close to the lodge. Did no one suspect he was still in Namibia? Nick nodded before speaking. Please don't feel guilty about the men you set free. You're a kind woman, Mrs. Elsa, but they're not honourable men. Even if we arrested them that night, it would have been only on trespassing charges, and we couldn't have held them for long. We couldn't prove they were with the other poachers who'd killed the elephant that day. The moment they were free, they'd continue to do what they wanted anyway. No, the charges are much more serious now. They won't be killing any more elephants for others or themselves for a very long time. Everyone was quiet, hanging on Nick's every word. To answer your question, yes, we knew Stefan was still in Namibia, but it's a big country with a lot of wildernesses. He could have been anywhere. We're lucky Otayan and your guards found his body at all. I guess we'll never know why he was so close to Desert Lodge. But Naomi knew why. So did Luca, Auntie Elsa, Kerry and Johan. She suspected Nick knew too, but he didn't want to cause them more upset than was necessary. Stefan had wanted revenge on Naomi. Her heart went cold when she thought about the number of times she'd walked into the desert during her short break. first by herself and then with Luca. They would have been sitting targets for Stefan. Nick got up, put his cap on, and pushed his chair back under the table. "Well, folks, I'd best be on my way. Thank you for your hospitality, Mrs. Elsa. Once the doc has finished the autopsy, we'll talk again." With a wave and a smile, Nick left, followed by the doctor. Through the door, Naomi saw them lift Stefan's body from the truck and carry it to the doctor's Cessna. It still felt surreal that Stefan had been so close, the way he died, and now they were taking his body away. Lucas squeezed Naomi's hand as though he knew what she was thinking. She was grateful for his support, for reminding her she was safe. Feeling sticky and sweaty from their night's ordeal, Luca and Naomi left to go to their separate rooms to shower. By the time Naomi rejoined the others in the Lapa, the sun was nearly up, and most guests had yet to return from their sunrise safaris. She felt light-headed as the events of the past few hours threatened to overwhelm her, and was surprised to realize that she was famished. Shock sometimes had that effect on her. Even though they'd just had some bread and jam with their coffee earlier in the kitchen, her stomach growled at the delicious aromas of the breakfast. She took her seat between Luca and Auntie Elsa as usual. Around them, staff was readying the Lapa for Auntie Elsa's and Santina's party that evening. The big round table at the back of the Lapa already groaned under an avalanche of gifts for the two women. Stunning African rugs were being hung at three sides, leaving only the front of the Lapa open, offering a view over the pool. The staff looped thousands of Murano glass fairy lights Santina had brought from Italy through the rafters all around the Lapa. Massive African urns placed in the corners sprouted tall grasses, which lent a whimsical element to the venue. In the cleaned pool, colourful lights secured to the bottom would add more light magically when the sun went down. The day became a whirlwind of activity, not as desperate as the previous day's pandemonium in the storm, but just as intense. Several members of the Italian party had commandeered Luca to fly them to Windhoek for some last-minute shopping. It meant fewer people to cater to at lunch, which Chef appreciated. The kitchen was hotter than the desert, even though several fans were whirring at full power and all the windows and doors were open. After lunch, most of the remaining guests, Auntie Elsa and Santina, retired to their rooms for a siesta. Kerry had ordered coffee for her and Naomi in the refreshing coolness of the guest lounge. Kerry poured 2 cups and handed one to Naomi. "Do you think our gift to Auntie Elsa and Santina is enough? It seems everyone else's gifts are so much more extravagant." Naomi took a sip of her coffee and leaned back against the sofa, exhaling the tension from her body. She could finally relax. "I think our gift is perfect." Santina wanted an authentic Namibian experience. What could be more authentic than Namibia's ancient music? No one has ever heard this music outside of our country, and you know Auntie Elsa just loves it. She's always taken such pleasure in hearing the San people's voices sing in harmony. It's a shame we hear it so seldom. Someone should record them one day before their songs are gone forever. Speaking of which, it's the reason it's the perfect gift to Auntie Elsa. There's nothing we can offer that will give her more joy, and as much as it hurts to even think about it, she'll be gone in a few weeks, and she can't take anything with her, can she? Kerry nodded. If you put it like that, you know she's asked Santina to help her get ready for the party instead of us. Perhaps she doesn't want to remind us any more than she has to that she's so ill. I'll miss her so much. I can't even imagine how you must feel. Naomi put her cup down on the coffee table beside her. When she spoke, her voice sounded sad but intense. "I feel lucky. Auntie Elsa is an incredible woman, and I feel truly blessed she's in my life. Of course I'll be sad. I'm sad now. I'll be losing the only mother I've ever really known. I was too young when my mother died to remember her clearly. When I think of her, it's more of the idea of her I remember, if you see what I mean. And I'm grateful we have this time left to get used to Auntie Elsa's leaving. She told me how much she's looking forward to seeing Uncle Wouter again. Auntie Elsa has always talked about him as her soulmate, and I believe they'll meet up again. So I'm happy for her. If I continue to think of her happiness, then my sadness won't be so overwhelming. Plus, I have you and Luca in my life. You're both pretty incredible too. Kerry winked at Naomi. Oh, stop it. You'll make me blush. Yeah, like you don't know it already. And I know I'm not the only one thinking you're wonderful. I saw how Johan could barely keep his eyes off you this morning. How are things going with him? Kerry's eyes glittered, and her smile got even bigger. Funny you should ask. He's kind of asked me to marry him. Naomi jumped up and rushed over to her friend. She plonked herself down beside Kerry and hugged her close. Oh my God, that's amazing news! Congratulations! When? When Kerry could breathe again from being hugged so tightly, she giggled before answering. We didn't want to spoil things for you and Luca, but it happened the night before Luca asked Auntie Elsa for your hand. We'll wait a little while so we can decide the logistics, you know, where to live, who'll be moving in with who, that kind of thing. I'm so happy for you, Kerry. Just look at us. Both were the most amazing men. A frown appeared between Naomi's green eyes. It feels kind of strange though, doesn't it? In a good way, I mean. It's like Auntie Elsa is leaving us, but we won't be alone. Do you believe in coincidences? I know what you mean. I had a similar thought, but however it's happened, coincidences or not, I'm so happy for both of us. You'll still stay on as manager of Desert Lodge, though, right? Kerry hugged her friend back. You just try and stop me. All my dreams have come true. My dream job, my dream man. The rap on Naomi's door awoke her. She got up to let Kerry in. The large bag she dragged behind her nearly got stuck in the door, but she yanked it through as she spoke. I'm glad you could sleep a little with all this noise going on today. Naomi yawned and stretched. Yeah, I guess I needed it. Sleeping in the truck in the desert during a storm wasn't the most restful sleep I've ever had. Well, I'm glad I came to wake you. We have to get ready, it's nearly 6 o'clock. The rest of Auntie Elsa's friends will be here soon. Some have already arrived, they're having drinks in the Lapa. Naomi yawned again, struggling to shrug the last vestiges of sleep from her body. What are you wearing tonight? Kerry plonked her bag on Naomi's bed. My green dress. It's in here. I've already had my shower, and I thought it would be fun to get ready together. That's okay, isn't it? Naomi smiled at Kerry and went to look through the clothes in her wardrobe. Kerry's bag was so large, Naomi wondered if she'd brought along her entire wardrobe. It contained enough beauty products to open a store. A frisson of excitement coursed through Naomi. It had been so long since she'd shared a getting-ready event with her best friend. Sure, it'll be fun. We won't get many more chances to do so, now we're both nearly married women. Kerry put on some music while she did her makeup at Naomi's vanity table. Naomi had a quick shower, dried her hair and got dressed so they could swap places. Kerry's dress, the green of desert aloes, was the perfect contrast to Naomi's sky blue one. Arm in arm, the two friends walked to the Lapa to join the party already in full swing. Luca's Italian chef had worked with chef to create a fusion of food from the two cultures that produced the most delicious canapes Naomi had ever tasted. Evidently the guests thought so too, as they stood around the tables in the Lapa, on the patio, and around the pool, drinks and canapes in hand. Naomi's heart fluttered when she saw Luca talking with Johan and a group of other guests. He looked unbelievably handsome in black trousers and a white tailored shirt. As though he could feel her presence, his eyes found hers. A huge smile lit up his face as he took long strides toward her. "Amore mio, you look like a dream." She blushed pink when he lifted her chin and kissed her lips in full view of everyone there. Then he put an arm around her shoulders and led her and Kerry to the group of friends he'd just left. Kerry had arranged a wheelchair for Auntie Elsa, who'd found it too exhausting to walk any small distance now. Santina wheeled Auntie Elsa toward the Lapa amidst loud applause from everyone there, including the staff. Following alongside, Chef pushed a small hostess trolley. On it sat the biggest, most flamboyant birthday cake Naomi had ever seen. It comprised at least 4 layers. Candles covered the top tier. So many candles that one could hardly see any cake beneath it. Naomi could only imagine what it would look like once Chef lit all the candles. Santina and Auntie Elsa looked splendid in their sparkly tops, just as birthday girls should. Slowly they made their way through the well-wishers into the Lapa. Once they'd reached their table and were seated, Luca excused himself, went to them and pinged a knife against an empty wine glass to get everyone's attention. His speech was short but powerful and heartwarming. He spoke about how lucky he was to have Santina in his life, how she'd been like a mother to him all these years. He said he was more grateful than he had words to express that Santina had found such a wonderful friend in Auntie Elsa. Naomi felt her face flush when he thanked Auntie Elsa for likewise being such a wonderful mother to Naomi and for having consented to their marriage. But when he spoke about how fortunate everyone was to have Auntie Elsa there for this special celebration, the first and last birthday party she'd ever share with Santina, everyone welled up. Following his speech, the place erupted. People were congratulating Auntie Elsa and Santina on their joint birthdays. The mood extended to Luca and Naomi as they received good wishes and blessings on their engagement. As the wind changed direction, it brought with it the mouth-watering aromas of the barbecues that had been cooking on the other side of the pool. Staff carried huge trays with barbecued meats of all kinds to the buffet area in the Lapa. A colourful array of salads and other accompaniments to the barbecue were elegantly displayed. Members of the kitchen staff handed plates to guests and served their requests. On the other side of the Lapa, guests kept the bar staff busy as they served wine, beer and soft drinks. The sun set through an array of colours on the canvas of the dark sky in the west, while in the east already stars were twinkling against the much darker blue of the night sky. As the dark of the night took hold, the lights in the Lapa and the pool came on. The fairy lights in the rafters created a starry heaven of their own. Tall outdoor lamps illuminated the patio and the dark areas further away. The pool had turned into a small lake of light. Naomi and Luca sat close together at the same table as Auntie Elsa and Santina. Kerry and Johan and several of Auntie Elsa's and Santina's friends had squeezed in at the table. It was a pleasant, friendly affair, full of laughter and jokes. Naomi kept an eye on Auntie Elsa in case she became too tired and wanted to take a break from the festivities, but her bright smile and excited eyes absorbed every detail around her. It broke Naomi's heart to see Auntie Elsa was saying goodbye to it all. Naomi caught Kerry's eye. They appeared to have the same thought at the same time. The friends smiled at each other. They'd support each other through the storm to come. When Luca had finished his dinner and pushed his plate aside, Naomi leaned into him to whisper in his ear. He listened for a moment and then turned to look into her eyes. "Really? I'm so happy for them, but in that case it's only fair that people congratulate them too." Luca got up. Pinging a spoon against an empty wine glass again to get everyone's attention, he spoke. "It seems we have yet another reason to celebrate tonight. I've just learned that Naomi's best friend, Kerry, who is now the new manager here at Desert Lodge, has agreed to marry one of the nicest men I've ever met. Johan is the owner of the nearby elephant orphanage, which I hope you'll all visit and support. Congratulations to Johan and Kerry. May you be as happy as Naomi and me." Luca raised a glass, and everyone in the Lapa followed his example before launching into another round of deafening applause. Soon well-wishers swamped their table. They kissed Kerry on the cheek and thumped Johan on the shoulder. Chef had reappeared meanwhile. He lit the candles on the cake, while waitresses carrying large trays with flutes filled with champagne distributed to the guests. Santina pushed Auntie Elsa's wheelchair next to the enormous cake. Once there, Auntie Elsa slowly got up, and together the two women blew out the candles on their birthday cake. In his beautiful baritone voice, Luca sang "Happy Birthday." Everyone joined in and sang in their own time "Auntie Elsa" and "Santina," or the other way round, which meant that part of that song went on for ages. But through much laughter and jollity, everyone joined in at the end with the usual "Hip hip hooray!" Despite the applause, the flashes from the camera and the laughter and smiling faces of their friends and family, a sense of poignancy invaded the happy picture. Naomi and Kerry shared sad smiles, but were determined to help make Auntie Elsa's last birthday on Earth the best she'd ever had. Chef removed the candles and cut the cake into slices, starting with the top tier. Waitresses distributed it amongst the guests, while Santina and Auntie Elsa took their places at their table again. The atmosphere had changed, however. Conversations were more subdued, more reverent, yet still flowing, still cheerful. The soft sounds of a cappella voices eventually penetrated the babble. Everyone stopped talking to listen to the beautiful songs and voices of the small group of singers from the Sand tribe. They walked in single file around the tables to stand at the back of the Lapa where everyone could see them. The sound they produced was unusual and nearly unearthly, their bodies swaying to the rhythm inside them. Singing in their native language, no one could understand the meaning of their words, but the beauty and emotion in their voices brought only pleasure. Their singing seemed to be one continuous song. If there were separate songs, no one knew. Their sound affected even those Namibians who'd grown up among these ancient hunter-gatherer tribes. Santina and Auntie Elsa held hands and shared a tissue to stem the tears that flowed from their eyes. In the next chapter, we learn that Auntie Elsa's condition, unfortunately, has deteriorated dramatically, and that means decisions has to be made that will affect the rest of Luca's and Naomi's lives. So, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and sharing my videos. And most of all, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. Until next time.